All right, welcome to another episode of Small Business Chronicles. I am your co-host of the show, Brian Stone. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I partner with Ryan Shearer on this show to talk about all things small business, mid-sized business, and we've really become kind of the Swiss Army knife of the business world. And I'm really excited about our guest because he is a serial entrepreneur like myself. He has a really unique journey. He even has a little bit of a foray into the franchise space. Specifically within real estate, which is something that appeals to me. But without further ado, I'll just jump right into the conversation. So with me today we have Karim Kerachni, and he is a fantastic business owner, and he's actually tuning in all the way from overseas. He has a way better view than me, so I know that you guys that are watching on video really get to enjoy the sunrise in the background there. So Karim, how are you, man? How's the evening go? What time is it there?
It's actually 7 a.m. It's actually
7 okay.
Morning. Yeah, so we're gonna see the sun rising right above my head.
And it's
good morning, good evening.
It's 5 o'clock here, I think. So yeah, 7 a.m. there. 5. Yeah, love it.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I'm very happy to be here, and I really like what you guys are building. I've watched a bunch of your episodes, and it's of great value to new.
Well, I mean, listen, no matter what business you're in, it's all about your mental diet and what you absorb, surrounding yourself with education, and podcasts have become this phenomenal platform for business owners in multiple industries to gain perspectives from different people all across the world that have different views on business. So yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, and honestly, I'm excited to have your perspective because it's something that we haven't had on the show before. I mean, so tell our I know I'm excited, but tell our listeners why they should be so excited about us having our conversation today. Give them a little bit of a background of your journey as an entrepreneur and what you're doing right now, and what you learned along the way.
Absolutely. So my name is Karim Kerachni. I was born in Canada. I grew up in France, went back to Canada about 10 years ago, and started my career in sales, then in management. But I had this itch in the back of my mind, and I wanted to have my own venture and be my own boss. And like many, but never really knew what to do, to get started, and what idea should I choose, and so on. This paralysis that a lot of people have. And it just so happened that as I was moving from Western Canada to Eastern to Halifax, which is on the East Coast, on the Atlantic coast, I noticed a big demand in the cleaning space. So I started a cleaning company. Less than 1 month after moving there, maybe less than 2 months from moving to Halifax, and just jumped into it and decided, what, I'm just gonna figure things out as we go. And so I started that company named Steammates, which is a residential commercial cleaning company, and started from scratch, grew it to a fairly large entity in Halifax, and then I had those systems and processes in place, and I've managed to remove myself from the business, from working in the business. So the next natural transition was to take this and copy paste it to another city and see if it can be successful in another market. So that's what we've done. We opened another branch 2 years after starting the first one, so very quickly. At that time, I had a business partner in Ottawa. I had my business, running self-sustained, let's say, in Halifax. I really didn't need to work in it. So why not adding another challenge? So I started another business roughly around the same time. I really like keeping my hands full. So that venture, it's an opportunity that came to me in partnership with a company named PropertyGuys.com. And so with this business I started, I'm in charge of their franchise development for the state of Massachusetts, and also helping with other states. So in other words, I'm looking for franchisee for Property Guys within the state of Massachusetts. And as you mentioned, I'm doing that remotely. I was doing that remotely from Halifax. I was working from home, and something that I've had in mind for a long time was to take this show on the road and to work as I'm traveling. So that's what I've been doing now for a year and a half. And currently, as you said, I am in Malaysia, on an island in Malaysia. It's 7 a.m. Yeah, and I'm a big believer and preacher in this lifestyle of for people who are able to work remotely, which is more and more, especially since COVID. It's to take this jump, this leap of faith, and explore the world, whether it is your own backyard, your own state, your own country, or traveling abroad. Because in my opinion, that allows you to have to be actually more productive because you're a lot more. I would say overall a lot more happy. You have more, work-life balance, and so in the time you're working, you're actually getting more done. At least that's my experience.
Well, and I've seen that too. You know what I mean? And be personally, some of my business is geographically based and some isn't, right? My real estate business obviously keeps me anchored. But my coaching business can be anywhere, right? And so, this is one of the reasons why I was excited to talk to you, Karim, because I want to take a step back and let our listeners realize that you jumped from one space to a completely other space. From cleaning into real estate franchising, right? And most people that have multiple businesses, they're usually adjacent to whatever one fundamental business is. But you didn't take that route, right? Which is unique. And so, but I think what our listeners can learn from this, and I'd love to get your insights on this, is that once you understand business and how it works, it's all the same. Right? The product and service is different, but the best practices, the way you launch, the way you market. Yes, there's some nuances, but there's so many things that are consistent across every single business that you look at.
Well, you took my answer. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's right. No, exactly. That's you're right. The industry, obviously, there is a lot to learn in whatever industry you jump on, but there is nothing that is unsurmountable, and you have to be comfortable in being in constant position of learning and constant position of ignorance and trying to get knowledge from others, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and more knowledgeable than you in each industry. So I think that's exactly it. Whenever and I cannot say that I understand business. I think this is a lifelong process. And there has been new challenges, new experiences with each ventures. For instance, with property guys, I had to actually raise money, find some investors. First time I did that, and that was a very a really great experience for me that now I could do again for my next ventures. So anyhow, my point being, once you have a certain system or a way to look at opportunities and way to look at the business, then it can be adapted to any kind of industries. And one key element here is, once again, to surround yourself well with people who are better than you, more knowledgeable than you in the field, and be humble and have the humility to ask questions and ask for help and learn as you go. You know that you're going to be making mistakes. You know that you're going to have some challenges. So if you're comfortable with this, nothing can faze you.
Well, yeah, no business grows and scales without failure, and without breaking the systems down so you can rebuild them better, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The question is, how fast can you get up? How fast can you adapt and find a solution to whatever problem you have in front of you? And how resilient are you to take those hits along the way, and be patient enough to see it through. I think those are the key factor to success.
One of my previous mentors and business coaches for my real estate sales team, he was also he was also huge into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. right? And he used to make the comparison that any hits that he took were his fault, right?
Yeah.
But every single hit he learned, okay, say, what did I do to create an opening to allow that hit to happen? And he felt it. I mean, he felt that feedback. And I think business is very much the same way, right? I mean, you're gonna take those hits, you're gonna take the hard knocks, if you will, right? And what you do with those is really gonna determine whether or not you move the business forward or you change direction. And look, sometimes changing the direction is the right way to move, right? Sometimes it's selling the business to somebody that's already taken the hard knocks and is in a better position. Sometimes it's closing the business to create an opportunity in another space, right? As long as you're resilient, it's not failing, right? Because you're just progressing forward.
Yeah, exactly. And always having, multiple plans, multiple, ways out, or multiple options ahead of you. I mean, yeah, it's funny you mentioned selling. I'm actually in a position to sell the cleaning company. I've had it for 5 years, grown it to, two fairly successful locations. And so now, new adventure, how to sell my business. Never done that before. So, and the reason I'm doing this, it is not because I don't like the industry or don't like the business anymore. Obviously, it's my baby. I started it from scratch. I've seen it grown. Now we have a couple dozen employees reliant on the business. So it's something that I'm quite proud of. But also at some point, I realized that with this lifestyle of being away and having my focus much more on property guys and this newest business, I'm not giving Steammates its due right, as a business and the people in it. So I would much rather see it in the hands of someone who is local and will take some actions to take the business to the next level, which I'm not able or willing to do at this point. So it's also, seeing the business as its own entity, not, putting, whatever your pride aside, and doing what's best for the business, for the people in it, and for the clients at the end of the day.
Well, and I love that you talked about that, Karim, because even huge companies with huge scales, you see this happen. A really common thing for owners is to step out and fire themselves from the CEO position, and put someone in that seat. Right. Even if they
Exactly.
retain ownership, they come to the realization that they've been successful. They've surrounded themselves with fantastic people. And at some point, you might be the person that's in the way of other people
Yeah,
fulfilling their vision. Right.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you
So
don't
yeah,
want
I'd
to be
say,
you don't want to be the limitation for your business. And we all have, a certain a limit to what we can accomplish within the business. We can always, take it to the next level, but you have to constantly ask yourself if you still have the drive and the energy to take it, because it takes a lot to get a business off the ground. It takes a lot to take it to its first and second level, which in what I mean by that, it is to create the systems and processes, then delegate, automate, and at some point, it's probably different from one industry to another. But once you reach, I don't know, 100,000 or 300,000 in revenue, 500,000, to take it to the 1 million and to the 10 million and to 100 million, a year in revenue, those are very different ranges of skills and knowledge and know-how and so on. And Yeah, you have to know your own limitation and not try to stick to your business. You might have been great at starting it and growing it to a certain point, but at some point you might actually be pulling it down, and not letting it reach its true potential.
my wife's an author, and she there's a concept that she in the writing space called being willing to kill your darlings. Right. So it means like something, you get attached to like a particular character or story or something like that in the writing space. And you have to be willing to, for the greater vision of whatever the story is, you have to be willing to let go and to let that darling thing, that thing that you have an emotional attachment to, go. And I think I think that's true in business too, and you're living proof that you got to be willing to step away, and it's not ego, it's not pride, like you said. In fact, quite the opposite, right? Like you said, you got to step out of that and understand, hey, it's time. So, and it creates opportunities for you to take your next big step, right? So what's I mean, I know you want to talk about the franchise space, and you mentioned that briefly, but outside of that, I mean, what's your own personal vision as an entrepreneur? Where do you to see yourself? What's your next thing, your next venture that you're excited about, and what are some things that drive you to do what it is that you do that some of our listeners might be able to pick up?
Yeah. Once I've grown my business, I went into the franchise world with Property Guys, and that's something I've known about franchise like most people, but I never really dug into it myself, and I was quite impressed by the industry, and knowing that there are franchises in every industry actually, and I really actually found myself really passionate about the model of a franchise when it's done well, because it actually opens the door. It opens the opportunity to entrepreneurship, business ownership, to people who might not have any kind of experience, whether it is in the industry or even in business in general. I actually wish that I've discovered that as my first venture, because it's a great way to learn business and entrepreneurship with the right structure and support and the right brand, above your head, as a first venture, or as a 10th venture for someone who's looking for just profitable business opportunities. So I got myself very passionate about it, and to be frank, I'd love to tell you that I do have many ideas for the future, but really I do see myself for the next, at least the next 5 to 10 years, right now with Property Guys, because it just has so much potential. We're just starting, exporting this model. So to give some understanding, it is a model, a very unique model in the real estate sphere, that has originated in Canada for the past 25 years with over 100 franchise locations from coast to coast. But it is new to the US. It started expanding to the US only in the past 2 years, and in other countries as well, actually. So it really feels like Uber, Netflix, Airbnb 20 years ago, part of a disruptive model, new and powerful, coming to a new market. So there's just so much to do. I'm very grateful to be there in the early stages of this process, and so I do see myself growing Massachusetts and then all of New England and maybe all the Northeast or the eastern half of the US with this model, because it's really a model that works in any kind of market. By the way, I'm noticing I haven't mentioned what what is Property Guys. So it's basically an alternative way of buying and selling real estate. So for people who don't want to use a real estate agent for whatever reason, not saying that real estate agents are not necessary, but some people want to sell on their own. Some people want to try something different. So what Property Guys offers is a one-time flat fee for all the services that a seller needs, everything included, from photographer, stager, appraiser, all the exposure, obviously, the listing on the MLS, on Zillow, and so on, the writing the offer, the negotiation, the lawyer. So everything is included for a one-time flat fee, which typically ranges between 3 to 9 grand. Instead of usually what sellers have to spend it between 25 to 60K, 70K, right? So it's a lot less, a lot more control in the process for people who want to keep more control in the process, and just a different way, for people who are looking for something different. So that's what Property Guys does, and that's what franchisee actually do in their exclusive territory that they acquire.
Well, and obviously we could go down a rabbit hole there. I mean, I'm a real estate
Yes,
broker
please.
myself, and have been, and so I'm sure that if we really got into the weeds, most people would think that we would not agree and that we would clash, right?
But that's not true.
No, it's not true.
Exactly.
I mean, in reality, there are, in my personal experience, there are buyer and sellers at every level. And there are also agents and services. Some of them franchise models, like yours, or like Property Guys, that are a solution that people wouldn't otherwise be able to approach. And let's be real, I think that there's a time and place for every different type of business model. Obviously, I wouldn't be in business if I didn't think that my way was the best way, and that's okay, right? By the way, my competitor that's right next to me, if he doesn't think he's the best guy, or she doesn't think that she's the best girl to take the listing, then they have no business being at the kitchen table with the seller, right?
No,
so everybody's going to have that opinion.
You're absolutely right, and that's something interesting because for the first 6 months to 1 year starting, working with Property Guys, I actually avoided talking to real estate agents and brokers because I thought, and actually it's true, a lot of them did feel threatened when they first heard about the model. We're here to take, your steal your work and whatever. But actually, you're right. This is actually not true. In the sense of franchisees do work quite well, quite closely with real estate agents and real estate brokers. There are many ways of collaboration, but not just that. At the end of the day, if your focus is on the client and what's best for the client, it is good to offer them a whole range of options. There is enough to eat for everyone. There is way more than enough real estate, deals and transactions being made everywhere. So at the end of the day, it's just offering a different solution because, as I'm sure you would agree, for the longest time, for over 100 years, there was pretty much only one option and a very, narrow, ratio of people. A very small number of people try to sell on their own, for sale by owner, and they can be successful or not. More likely that they're not going to be successful. Besides that, there was only one way. Property Guys is just there to offer, a different approach for people who want to do things differently, but definitely not to steal the entire market and so on, because some people do. A lot of people still need the use of an agent. And I would go further than that. A lot of our franchisees are actually agents, are actually licensed, and it's a great way to have multiple stream of income, to tap on multiple part of the market, and I would say decrowd the industry. I'm sure in your market, just like everywhere in North America, it's pretty crowded for real estate agents. And a lot of them are not successful when they get started in their first 5 or 10 years. And so for them to have also for the agents to have a different way to approach the industry if they're passionate about real estate, but they're not super successful as an agent, great. There are other ways out there to reach the industry. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, and I was on a national call, and of course, me being in the industry, I go to a lot of national conferences in the real estate space, right? Orlando, we've been to Austin, but the national call I was on, we were talking about the lawsuit, the NAR lawsuit that's actually out right now, right? And I'll be interested to see, honestly, how this might impact your growth in the Property Guys, franchise over the next 5 years, because there really could be a lot of large impacts because, essentially the case is being made, for those of you that are listening that don't know this, that it's a conflict of interest for the buyer's agent commission to be paid for by the seller, right? And the call that that we discussed, I mean, look, from my perspective, it's a seller concession by another name, and for me, I'm not concerned about industry disruption. In fact, I get excited by it because this is the time to know your value. This is the time to know your value. And, look, 80% of the agents could leave the market today and I wouldn't be upset about it. I really wouldn't.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be one of them. Right. I mean, and you guys could come into my marketplace. I think you'd have a hard time because I think our average is about the same as what your cost is, because our price point is, in some areas, we're selling. I've sold lots for $2,500. I think the smallest commission I ever made was like $27. Yeah. So wow. We're in the Midwest. We're lower price. I think our average price point now is $250. But when I got in the industry, it was closer to $150. Right. So So it's a different marketplace. But still, I think that competition in the marketplace only brings better end result for the consumer. Right.
Exactly. 100%, exactly, and every industry goes through through disruption and change, and that's what brings innovation to the industry. And as you said, competition is some form of some form of competition are always good because it actually pushes people, entrepreneurs, business owners, agents, and so on, to not be complacent where they are and to try to find a new offering, a new service, and so on. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, either way, I'm agreeing with you on that. That's what I was gonna say. Every industry have gone through some change, and I think this lawsuit that you mentioned, I'm very optimistic. I mean, on my end, I do think it's going to bring a lot of good to our business. But more generally, I think it does show that the industry is ripe for change, is ripe for disruption. It shows that people are not necessarily happy with the status quo. Whether they're right or no, or wrong, and who is in the right, who is in the wrong, don't really matter. It just shows that there is a need for change in this industry, and it's not the only factor. I mean, I think you would agree also. I don't know if around you have lots of those, but there are more and more discount brokerages. It went from
Yep.
5-6% to 4 and 3 and 2 and 1% with Redfin, and so it actually shows that even the model is or the market is asking for a change in the model, and in no way that says anything wrong against agents or brokers and so on. We're talking about the way the industry operates.
Listen, I mean, in any industry, regardless of whether you're a big player, small player, whatever, when value is absent, price matters, right? And so
Yeah,
I think when we see these industries, and I mean, and of course we're talking about real estate, but this applies to everything, right? Any
exactly.
industry. If you start seeing those shifts, it means that somewhere in the consumer base, they're seeing a lack of value that's causing them to be more attracted to a different model, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's
So.
absolutely right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Well, hey, I know this is a rabbit hole that I could definitely get into, but we're getting close to the end
Like
of
you
our
said
time,
too.
Karim. So, yeah.
Well,
So, let me ask you this, because I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to leave something for our listeners, who most of whom are solopreneurs or aspiring serial entrepreneurs themselves. What would you say is the one most impactful thing that you could share, that people could implement in their business today to actually grow and scale in their personal or their professional goals?
I have so many things that come to mind. Actually, that's a
I
tough
know you got to
question,
pick
but
one though.
I would say
I got to
I have to
limit you
pick
to
one.
one.
I have to pick one. Absolutely. So in the we kind of talked about it earlier, but it's really to surround yourself as much as you can with people better and smarter than you. So it goes through networking. So to consistently try to grow your network, not just looking for potential clients, but also referral partners, and also advisors, people who has done it before. The competition, we just talked about competition is actually always good. Any competitors, when I was in the actually in both businesses, I always try to connect with them and to make friends with my competition, and we actually learn a lot from one another. And also to surround yourself well within your business, and to try to delegate and automate as soon as possible, because it's going to show you the holes in your processes. It's also going to quickly give you the time and freedom to work on your business, to find ways to expand and so on within your business. So all of that can be in the bucket of surround yourself well and consistently.
I love that. I couldn't have said that better myself, Karim. So, look, I really, again, I really, really appreciate the conversation. Love hearing more about your journey across multiple industries. I can't wait to see what the next 5 years or so work, how they work out for you, the franchise space.
Thank you.
Excited about that. And all you guys, my business owners and listeners, thank you guys for listening. And I know that you guys probably got some great notes. If you want to connect with Karim, we'll make sure that you have his info in the show notes. You guys can check him out everywhere where he's at. And as a reminder, this is this podcast is part of the Small Business Delivered Network. So if you really appreciate this show and you want to check out more business minded shows with a multitude of topics, make sure you check us out at smallbusinessdelivered.com. Again, I'm your host, Brian Stone, and let's keep that entrepreneurial spirit alive. Remember that every business, no matter how small, has a big story to tell. So until next time, we'll see you guys later on.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Karim.